Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Ori El Raviv, coming out from New Jersey, and he is a multicultural turnaround executive. And for the audience, he's really great because he's going to be talking about managing sustainable growth, overcoming business stagnation, and leading your business. I'm really happy to talk about this as a large part of the audience loves hearing about leadership and business and entrepreneurship and consulting. So, Ori, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, start off by introducing yourself and we'll dive right into the conversation.
My name is Ori. I come from New Jersey, family, husband, 3 kids. But really, from the sake of this conversation, I'd like to think of myself as a turnaround executive. I am actually a full-time executive in this instance, but throughout my career, I entered existing kind of businesses. And what I did was really about that. And to me, a turnaround executive is really, a fancy way of saying that I'm best at going into existing organizations and helping make a difference, either from a complete turnaround, a distressed situation, or just in terms of stagnation of what's going on with the business, just taking that next step, almost like in any organization that happens that way. And I typically am great at the small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah, really interesting. And so we'll talk about navigating business turnarounds in small to medium sized enterprises. So talk about the strategies and experiences that you've had in identifying issues and implementing solutions to revitalize struggling businesses.
Okay. So I really think that every businesses are different, but also fundamentally very similar. Like the type of issues that you end up encountering are different. Other than that, it's not that you have such differences in it. At the end, my approach to business is based on simplicity. I like the step by step. I believe everything is about the fundamentals. And when you wanna make a change, fundamentals are critical. This is almost like in a business honestly, also in sports, you would see there's a lot of similarities with when a group is not really handling it well, you're going back to the fundamentals. So when I can approach businesses, it's all, first of all, about the fundamentals, about who they are, what's going on, what has happened throughout the last kind of few years. I love diving into P&Ls and financials. And then you go into the business model and you understand a little bit of that industry. You talk to people around the company. You just understand where things are. And then my approach to businesses are, as you said, from the fundamentals, but also from a step-by-step. So I'm more of a step-by-step person rather than any radical changes. To me, this is not about let's go inside and fire everybody and start over. This is more about identifying the intersection point, something that I really like. What I mean by intersection points is those kind of things that once you press, you're able to make a change in some of the areas of the business. And there's everything around the business kind of flows through some intersection points. And you really got to be able to identify what those are and see where you can press. So those are the fundamentals around it. And so in business, some examples of things that you go into, a lot of times is you get too stuck in your day-to-day. You just get stuck. Your day-to-day happens and you honestly just need to stop and step away for a second. I really love when I'm running a business, I love the yearly plans. I don't go heavy on yearly plans. For me, yearly plans is not this gigantic drill into numbers and all of that. It is almost like a step. It's a few days for you to be able to take a step back and look at what's going on. And I'd like to first of all look at what happened last year. I'd like to call it a name. What was last year? What was the name? How would you name it? There's a one name. What was last? And I would go and identify what happened last year. Inside the company, outside the company, the people inside the company, what happened? I think that is the first thing that starts to ship your way into thinking of the next year, because where you are, what happens, is really the stepping stone to what you can expect or what you want to happen for the year after. I think there's something that we can get into a bit more details, but it's one of the more fascinating things and one of the more, I think, fundamental things of a business.
Yeah. And second question I have for you is discuss the challenges and best practices of managing and motivating teams from diverse cultures and backgrounds globally.
Hmm. Okay, so I've had the fortune to, I think the fortune, but I've lived 6 years in Beijing in China, and I managed teams over there. I obviously am from Israel, so I live there and I operate with that. I had teams in Belgrade, and I had teams in Latin America and practically Australia. I think the only continent that I haven't worked with is Africa. And on that regards, it might be a bit boring, but it also goes to the same thing. People are, in my opinion, the same. They're fundamentally the same. And what that means is they have the same type of core things that operate them. What differs them is the culture and what they learn from outside. But if you want to really get to people, you get to them by understanding that fundamentally they're very the same, and they look for that support. They look for those energies to grow. And quite frankly, it also depends on your type of leadership and who are the people that you want inside the company. I want to have people that inspire me. I know that often leaders are expected to inspire their people. And I think obviously I'm hoping that I'm able to do that. But if I'm looking at what people that I want, I actually want the exact reverse. I want the people that would inspire me. People that inspire me, meaning that I can then have more energy to be able to make steps, to make decisions. I think maybe there are not a lot of conversations about that, but I don't have an endless amount of energy, and I get to spend a lot of it managing people and managing business. If you have a board, then you manage the board, and if you have investors, then you manage investors. The amount of energy that they suck from you is incredible. So honestly, the people inside of that company, I want them to energize me. So they are so much more critical to the way in my success and the company's success than anything. So I'm looking for that. So really, on culturally, when you have teams, no matter where they are, don't go into those stigmas or the culture kind of references to who other people say they are. Understand that they all fundamentally are the same. And this is the way to move them and motivate them. You'll have to find your way because cultures do play a role. Like you can't just ignore the differences and how they operate. Like Israelis are very direct, and I don't know, maybe in India they're a little bit more disciplined, and maybe in America, depending where they are, they're more politically correct, right? So you have to understand the nuances of what the culture impact, but at the end of the day, fundamentally, to move them and to operate them and lead them, I believe it's all the same.
Really interesting insights. We'll talk about the next question is driving sustainable growth amidst business stagnation. And so examine methods to overcome stagnation and propel businesses toward long-term profitable growth.
Okay. All right. So, okay, sustainable for me is profitable. Now, the businesses have to be profitable to be able to be successful, right? Now, there are different types of businesses. Granted, some businesses, for example, where they invested from venture capital and others, they would have other goals. They would actually expect it to lose money, and they would be hypered by growth, not by profitability. But for me, and on a small to medium size, I'm driven by profitable business, by sustainable growth, by sustainably growing them profitably. And you don't do that by jumping ahead. You do it by taking the steps. You really have to start by taking steps back and managing your overall chapter in the company. This is another reference to how I like to consider businesses. I consider them like a book. And if they're a book, that means that they're built by chapters. And every year, in essence, you can say a lot of things about that. Let's define that as a year. Every year is a chapter in the life of the company, and you want the next chapter to basically be to step up. Now, you can't always step up. There's going to be a lot of factors that are happening outside and outside of your control. But in many ways, you'd like to step outside, look at it, and how they define you the next kind of step. So the most important critical thing is to be able to really build that slowly and really build that outside and really be able to have that plan in motion. And you also want to be able to don't just write things for the sake of writing it. This is not just planning for the sake of planning. This is always about there's the plan your work and work your plan, that type of thing. And I know it's a bit annoying, but it is really true. And in that sense, you would overall learn, how do I plan for things that are A, I can do them, B, I'm committed to them. I'm not just saying them because it make them look good, because honestly, I think that setting up goals that you're not going to ever have a chance to achieve is probably going to be, it's worse than doing look. It's just, it creates you, it's frustration. It's frustrating. You're not happy with what you're doing. So put yourself into goals, and the next path needs to be something that you can really see, needs to be something that you can commit to, needs to take into account your capabilities, the team capabilities, and that's how you go. And sticking to those fundamentals about that next step. Don't focus on results. There's also something that I really like. A lot of people are viewing, and in my career over in digital, a lot of people were really obsessed about results, about daily results, daily revenue, daily profit, and so on. I think there are a lot of people who are motivated by that. I personally do not like that, because I think results make you happy or sad. So I think if you have to obsess over something, in my opinion, obsess with the actions that would give you the best chances for success. Obviously, there are no right and wrong, and there's not a magic formula to it. You're not always right with what you choose. You're analyzing where you are, you're analyzing where the market is, you're thinking about your capabilities and what you're able to do and your motivation to do. And you're saying, all right, like these are the challenges is these are the actions that I need in order to make changes here. And then the idea is to follow up on them. And that would be where you're going to be obsessive of the actions that would give you the best chance to succeed from what you have garnered, from what you saw, from what you analyzed. It's your best bet. And if it doesn't work, then either you took the wrong steps, which is like, all right, let's look at them again. Let's recalibrate. It's okay. The path forward is a yellow brick road. It's not a straight in the wall and just go knock it down. And a yellow brick road is not a straight line. It's curvy. And it's okay that it's like that. Don't expect everything that you think is just straight on. It's okay. You will need to stop. You need to look. You need to calibrate. You need to think what works and what doesn't. Sometimes it's your own actions. Sometimes it's outside. Sometimes it's the right track. It's the right steps, but it just takes longer. It's not going to be in Q1. It's going to be in Q2, which is another thing. If you do a yearly plan, you got to be able to break it down into quarters, and you got to review it every quarter. And the reason for that is because once you did at the beginning of the year, you'd go at the end of the year and you're going to review it, and it's just too long. It's too long to see that you haven't really taken the right steps. That those things are meant to keep you. It slaps you from sides. Right? It's meant to keep you on the right track, on the track that you chose, and meant to remind you of what you were committed to and what you wanted to achieve. And quite frankly, it's probably meant to keep you a little bit uncomfortable. It's meant to be that you're a bit uncomfortable. You didn't do what you wanted to do. You didn't do it's meant to be uncomfortable. And even with the people that work for you, they're supposed to be motivated, but often they're also meant to feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's okay. And it's not a right and wrong. Nobody's gonna, hammer down with something. But We want to be accountable for things. We want to put people and ourselves a little bit on the spot without being miserable, be motivated and happy. Can't hear you, Christopher. You're muted.
How can people find out more about you and reach out to you and see the work that you're doing?
So the best way to reach out to me is on LinkedIn, and I love helping. I'm obsessed with small to medium zone. I'm obsessed with P&Ls. I'm obsessed with the path forward for companies. I really love learning about new businesses, and I'm really looking forward to it, to help, to do what I can, and to lead for success. It's what makes me happy.
Yeah. Thanks so much for enlightening conversation, and keep up the great work.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.